All right. Welcome everybody to this month's session of Spiritual Questions Answered with CordyKet. My name is Ket, K-E-T Ket, and I'm the co-founder of CordyKet. All right. My wife's name is Cordelia, so together we are known as CordyKet. So Cordy is short for Cordelia, my wife. So I'm Ket, together CordyKet. So we do a lot of things related to energy. So since 2010, we've been teaching and providing services related to all things related to subtle energy. For example, we do energy readings, energy healing, and we even have our own energy healing modality. All right, and our healing modality is called Infinity Healing. I also teach Qigong. We have our very own proprietary Qigong called Unity Qigong. And a huge part of what we do is also to teach people how to meditate. We have our own meditations. For example, our very own light meditation. All right. So tonight's topic is ESP and energy reading. All right. Tonight's topic for Spiritual Questions Answered is ESP and energy reading. So just to give a little background, what makes us the authority to share about this. All right, so part of the work we do, or I would say, in fact, most or all of our work that we do will involve using ESP, right? If you don't know what ESP is, right, some people actually don't know, ESP stands for extrasensory perception. Right, some people call ESP psychic abilities, right? Psychic abilities. So since the nature of our work and services and even the lessons that we teach, right? So we have an infinity healing, our energy healing modality, and we also train students and other people to do the same kind of work that we do, right? And it's not just in the subtle energy realm, right? We also do a lot of work in the spiritual realms. It means we deal with spirits directly, right? So we also help people deal with evil spirits. We help people cleanse black magic, and that is, dealing with the dark side kind of stuff. And there are some people who come to us for certain readings, right? Some people would like to know maybe certain things about their future, some kind of divination, and all that. So we do those kind of stuff. Now, all this kind of stuff is dealing with the subtle realms, the spiritual realms. It's not your everyday, day-to-day stuff. All right. So it involves you having to use ESP and energy reading. All right. So the work that we do really requires us to use extrasensory perception, or some people would say psychic abilities, in order to perceive subtle energies and things which most people are not used to. For example, if we have to do, if we have to help people deal with spirits and so on, or to communicate with the spiritual realm, or I also do feng shui, right? I'm not a typical feng shui master like what most feng shui masters do. So most feng shui masters, they study the theory, right? They study a lot of theory and the application and so on and so forth, and they check directions and everything. Now I'm beyond that. I do more than that. And so other than knowing the theory, I can sense the energies, the subtle energies itself, right? So, and I believe that is the best way of doing feng shui, because feng shui is about subtle energies. It's about invisible qi, invisible subtle energies. So that is the way I do my feng shui audits for clients, right? To sense the energies. So we've been doing this since 2010, and we've been teaching students, and we have disciples too, right? We train disciples to do the kind of things that we do. So today I would like to share with everyone, right, and to help everyone answer basic questions about ESP and energy readings. And because a lot of people ask us, in fact, a lot of clients ask us, try to get me to explain when I go to see them or during meetings, and they really like to understand how. Okay, so since everyone is joining us tonight, quite a number of people, and if you guys and ladies, if you have questions regarding ESP, psychic abilities or energy reading work that we do, please feel free to ask, right? Use the chat function to type, and after I give a very simple background explanation, right, I will address your questions one by one. All right, so I like to use the term extrasensory perception, ESP, instead of just psychic abilities, right? Actually, I prefer the term extrasensory perception because it explains, I believe the term itself explains more than just psychic abilities. When we say psychic abilities, I don't know about you, all right? But when I first encountered the term psychic abilities, all I thought was psychic abilities had to do is with the mind, right? It implies that the mind is being used, right? Psychic ability implies that the mind is being used. Now, I realized actually as I learned this, in fact, I learned it from Cordelia, right? So Cordelia is my wife. Before this, she was my teacher, and she herself has a very amazing story to tell, right? She wrote her, I would say, how she began her path in doing all this work, and it was because of some very amazing things that happened to her. If you guys would like to know how CordyKet started and everything, you can actually get her book. All right. So Cordelia actually wrote a book. Wrote a book. It's called Possessed from Darkness to Light. All right. You can search Possessed Cordelia Lee, and it's on sale in Amazon, and also it's available as ebook in Google Play Books. All right. So when I met Cordelia, I already was doing some kind of energy readings. All right. And I didn't understand what I was doing other than I know how to do it. All right. And I believe a lot of people out there are experiencing the same thing. Many people have gifts like this, right? They have what people call, for example, intuition. Some people have sixth sense, right? They call it sixth sense. Some people say 7, 8 sense, is used. And then some people talk about clairvoyance, right? Some people can see things, other people cannot see. All this come under ESP, right? And all these are actually forms of energy reading, right? And I dare say, right, practically everyone, I think practically everyone has gone through deja vu, right? You all know what deja vu is? Right? It's like you suddenly realize that you have experienced this moment before, right? I wonder whether any one of you is experiencing a deja vu moment right now. It's like, wow, this exact moment, this moment is so familiar. I have lived it before, or I have experienced it before. I am saying the same words. I am talking to the same person. I am at the same place. Everything is the same, and it just gives you the goosebumps, right? So that is deja vu. Or some people have prophetic dreams, right? That means you have dreams, right, whereby you can predict the future, right? I'm not sure how many of you have had that, right? Or some people have prophetic dreams, and yeah, in fact, many other kinds of abilities, they all come under this same thing. Okay, so I'll just share a little story, like, to help you understand that how knowing what ESP and energy reading is and how it works, how it can help us. Now, when I first met Cordelia, before I met Cordelia, I was doing energy readings, and the kind of energy readings I was doing was using using dowsing rods to read energy. All right, I was using dowsing rods to read energy, and I realized I could read people's energy, right? People who are very far away from me, right? I could read people's energy even though they are in another city or another country. And I started out with crystals, right? So my story is I was an engineer. I didn't believe in all this stuff, and suddenly I encountered crystals, and I had some experiences with crystals that my scientific mind, my logical mind, had no explanation for, and I went on to really explore crystals, and I found out I could read the energy of crystals, and I could I could find crystals that are very suitable for people. So as I share this with my friends and other people, other people came to look for me so that they could find crystals that match them. And I was doing for clients that were in other cities. And so what I would do is I would check energies of crystals. So actually I was doing energy reading, and it's some form of ESP. So I would check the energy of the crystals and energy of the client, right? So energy of the client, energy of the crystal, and I would try to see whether they match, whether they're compatible with one another, and I do this, and I remember there was one night, right? There was one night I was doing it, and for a client that was in another city, right? And I had a lot of crystals with me. I still have a lot of crystals, right? So I was checking, this client, is it, which kind of crystal is good for the client? And as I do it, I realized I was losing a lot of energy myself, right? I was getting weaker and weaker, right? To be specific, if you're wondering what do I mean by losing energy, I felt I was growing weaker and weaker as the night progressed, as I tried to find a crystal that matched my client. And I started shivering. As I continued to do the work. And when I looked, when I went to the toilet and I stepped, I did my stuff, I washed my hands, I looked in the mirror, and I realized that my lips almost turned blue. I was very pale, right? I was very pale, and my lips were turning blue, right? And then I decided that, oh no, I need to stop. Whatever I was doing was using up a lot of my energy or a lot of my resources, and my hands started to shake, and I was shivering, and I realized that, wow, this energy reading business is no joke, right? I've never experienced that before. So let me tell you what it's about. All right. So first of all, I would like to explain the term extrasensory perception. Now, extrasensory perception means we take these two words, sensory perception, using the senses to perceive, right? Sensory perception means using the senses to perceive. Normal people, right? Normal people are supposed to have 5 senses, right? So anything more than 5 senses, they call it the 6th sense, right? Intuition, right? And extrasensory perception, it means anything more than these 5 senses, or anything that is extraordinary from what is considered as normal sensory perception. All right. Now I'll give a very grounded example. Firstly, let's consider from a scientific point of view, hearing. We can hear, in general, sounds that are of frequency 20 hertz to 20,000, 20K hertz, 20 kilohertz. This is what is considered the normal hearing range for humans. All right. So the thing is, not everyone are the same. Correct? So there are some people whose hearing can hear somewhat below 20 hertz, and some people can hear somewhat above 20 kilohertz. So if you belong to one of these categories, you can listen beyond this normal range, right? Beyond this normal range, then you're considered to have ESP, because your senses are picking up things that normal people can't. Or if you consider animals, cats, dogs, definitely compared to human, their hearing range is more than us. So compared to humans, cats and dogs have ESP, right? So first of all, we need to recognize this. ESP happens because there is a normal range. This is considered normal. Okay, this is normal range. Anything outside the normal range is considered ESP already because it is extra. Extra means beyond your normal senses. So this is for hearing. The same thing can go for vision, right? So in vision, we can see visible light. All right, and visible light is the colors of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Right, these colors have different frequencies. So on this end is a lower frequency, on this end is a higher frequency. Now, above violet, higher frequency than violet is called ultraviolet. All right, so ultraviolet is beyond our visible range, beyond what our eyes can see. So it's considered invisible, right? Ultraviolet and beyond is invisible for us. For below red color is the frequency called infrared. All right, so anything that is of infrared and lower frequency, I can't remember, okay, I can't remember exactly. But if I'm not wrong, in terms of frequency, this is around 10 to the power of 12, this is about 10 to the power of 16 hertz. In terms of frequency. Right, 10 to the power of 12 means a 1 and 12 zeros. 10 to the power of 16 is a 1 and 16 zero hertz. That is roughly, okay? If I got it wrong, please forgive me. Right, but basically there is a range. Now there are some people, right, who are clairvoyant, right? Their eyes can see things. So typically they can see beyond this visible light range, right? You might know some of these people. So they can see beyond this range and they're considered to have ESP, right? Because their senses can perceive more. So in order to really understand ESP, we must have the understanding that there is something considered normal, what scientists consider normal, which means what the majority of people are like. But a minority of people, they will have ESP because their senses can go beyond. So the same thing can apply to all the 5 senses. All right, the same thing can apply to all the 5 senses. So anything that is, so this is hearing, this is seeing, you have taste, you have smell, you have touch. All right, so these 5 senses, and in fact for ESP there are other kinds of senses, or some people use the term psychic abilities. Now I agree with the term psychic abilities because for the majority of the cases, these ESP abilities are actually linked to the mind. Linked to the mind, right? It is not fully of the physical senses because it is not just your physical senses that help us to perceive beyond the normal range. It needs the mind to come in. All right. So typically, you need a mind that is more still, that is more silent, in order to have greater ESP. All right, and that is why, for example, people have prophetic dreams. Right, prophetic dreams typically happens to people who have more or less, this intuition, sixth sense, clairvoyant abilities, but normally, they cannot get the prophecy when they are awake because their mind is not still and silent enough, right? So a lot of people, a lot of people consider them as themselves as normal folks, they get prophetic dreams. When they sleep, their mind is still and silent, and then the abilities, the ESP kicks in, and they get visions of the future or something like that. And sometime in the future, their dreams or prophetic dreams came true, and they realized, oh my God, it could be a deja vu moment, right? Or it's like, hey, I remember this. I know this was going to happen. I dreamt about it, right? And it happens, sometimes it happens to certain people many times, and they know that they have prophetic dreams and they will take note of it. And, sometimes they will warn other people if there's something that deserves note. All right. So it is, in a way, linked to the mind, but not completely linked to the mind. All right. I just to share with you all, most cases, you need the mind to be still and silent in order for extrasensory perception to happen. Now, why is this? Right? Why is it this way? So, what we are trying to perceive, okay, because once you need to go beyond the range, you're going into subtle energies. Right? You're trying to perceive subtle energies. Or you're going into spiritual realms to assess some information. So it is the very subtle stuff that this universe is made of, right? And in order to perceive, right, in order to perceive perception, without a still and silent mind, it is very, very, very difficult to do. Right? That is why you need the mind component, because you're going to subtle energies and spiritual realms. And this is where I would like to remind everyone, right? What the science say about what we know about this universe. All right. Now, if you don't, this might sound controversial, right? If you don't believe me, you can go in Google after I share this with you, right? Scientists say, right, everything that we know, we understand, that we can detect in this observable universe, right? All our technology only enables us to detect 4.9% of the observable universe. Everything that we know, that we can see, that we can feel, that we can detect, like Wi-Fi, radio waves, gamma, cosmic energy, right? Everything that is in this universe that we know of, that we can detect, that we know for sure, that we can measure, it is only 4.9%, less than 5% of the observable universe, which means 95.1% is unknown. It is what is considered as dark energy or dark matter. Right? If you don't believe me, go and Google dark energy, dark matter, and you will find this number. 95.1% of the universe, observable universe, is made up of dark energy, dark matter, and the scientists don't know what it is because they can't measure it. They only know that it exists. So the stuff that we know is 4.9%. Can you imagine this? You look around you, everything that you know is only 4.9%. If this is the first time you're hearing this, maybe your mind is being blown, right? So we are surrounded by stuff. 95% of the stuff that surrounds us is invisible, that current technology cannot detect. Get that into your mind, all right? But the good news is ESP can, right? ESP can. Energy reading can. And this is what we do. we perceive these invisible realms. And this is what most people can do actually. All right. So how is it done? So the first thing is you need the mind component, right? And you have the senses. So the next thing is I will talk about the body component. So if you don't mind, I would like to rub off this so I can leave the more pertinent information here on the board. So the first component we talked about is the mind component, right? So I'm going to talk about the second component, which is the body. Right, the person. Right, how do you know whether you have ESP or not? All right, so I'll just keep it very simple. Not everyone has ESP or all kinds of ESP. So ESP have got many kinds, right? For the five senses, you have five physical senses. For five physical senses, we have five ESP senses, and other than the five ESP senses, we have other kinds of ESPs, right? There's a whole long list. And for example, right, clairvoyance was one of them. So there are a lot of terms that start with clair. Clair, if I'm not wrong, is a French word for clear. It just means like psychic ability. So clairvoyance means clear seeing, psychic seeing. You have clairaudience, psychic hearing. You have psychic tasting, psychic smelling, psychic touch, psychic sense of touch, right? And then you've got all kinds of other psychic abilities available. All right, so most of the psychic abilities or ESPs, the first word is clair. All right, now the abilities that people have depend a lot on your body, and by body I mean genes. All right, genes. Most people, they have ESP thanks to their parents or thanks to their ancestors. Somewhere, somehow, you know, your ancestors have developed the ability, right? Or your ancestors didn't have the ability, but managed to cultivate the ability, and there were some changes in the cells, or in particular what we call gametes, or your reproductive cells, right? Which means for the man, the sperm, for the female, the eggs. All right, there were changes, there were genetic changes, right? Some genetic changes, and the abilities were in the genes. That's why I said it needs to be in the genes, and then it is passed down to the descendants. Now, I see this very clearly, right, in my family. Okay, so I want to share something about my family, right? So, just to share with you all, my genes in terms of ESP is not very good. All right. One of the conditions for having ESP is you need to have the genes, but genes is not everything. Okay, so let me share with you my family story. So, I come from my parents' generations, right? In my parents' generation, their parents, that means my grandparents, used to have a lot of children. All right, so I'm living in Malaysia right now. I'm a third generation immigrant from China. So my grandparents were mostly immigrants from China, right? So my father's side, I have 10 uncles and aunties, right? So in total, my paternal grandparents had 10 children. And for my mother's side, they also have 10 children. That means my maternal grandparents also have 10 children. I'm going to focus on my paternal side because it's more obvious. Now, the thing is, when it comes to ESP, you can see it's very linked to genes. So if you have some form of ESP, you will notice that either your parents have it, or some extended family members have it, or your grandparents members have it, and If you have children, you notice that even your children will have some ESP, the same ones that you have, right? It becomes very obvious. Now, I'm sharing my story because both sides of my family, my parents' side, my mother's, my dad's side, my mom's side, both sides, they are not very, yeah, they don't have much ESP. All right, but what's very interesting is this. So I'm taking a look at my father's side. Now, in my father's side, so there are, I have 10 uncles and aunties, and I have one pair of uncle and auntie, right? They are very spiritual. So from a young age, in fact, they started meditating from quite young. If I'm not wrong, probably maybe at least in their 30s or maybe the late 20s. I have one uncle who's very interested in meditation. And in those days, if I'm not wrong, there are a lot of meditation being made popular, and he learned, and I don't know, I have had reports that I have cousins who saw him meditate until he could levitate, right? It's just a story that I've heard. He doesn't talk about it much. So what is interesting is this. Now, all my uncles and aunties, both my father and mother's side, none of them are known to have ESP, right? They can't see things, can't hear things, and never heard any strange stories. And now, so my father's side, so all the uncles and aunties, they have children, including my father, right? My father gave birth to me and everything. And me and my siblings are pretty normal, right? I don't exactly see things and everything. But the uncle, right, and his wife who were meditating, they had children, right? They had children who from a young age could see spirits and could have conversations with them. And they were the only ones. They are the only cousins I have who have the inborn ability. But my uncle and auntie, the ones who meditate, they don't. They don't. All right? So what happened? Right? Definitely, like I said, genes have to come from somewhere. It's true, the ESP genes come from our ancestors, but they need to be a first ancestor who have done something to cause or spark the change. Now, I witnessed this in my family. So what my uncle did, right? He meditated until, he reached a high level of cultivation and everything. Although he himself doesn't have the ESP abilities, his body cells were changed, and as his scrotum produced sperm, right? The sperm become of a higher level, with newer genes, with newer abilities, and so his children had the abilities thanks to him, right? Thanks to the effort that he made. All right, so genes is the other thing. Okay, so you have the mental component, then you have the body component. So if you have the genes, you have an advantage. If you don't have the genes, it's also fine. All right, let me talk about the third factor. All right, the third factor is what I call the energy factor. Now, by energy factor, I'm referring to the person, right? We're talking about the factors, which is the person. So the person's state of mind, the person's body, referring to the genes, and the person's energy. All right. So here I would like to share with everyone, for example, when you're talking about humans have three types of subtle energies in the body. And this is what we discovered, all right? CordyKet and I discovered there are three distinctive types of subtle energies. There is life force, there is chi, and there is prana. All right, so life force is the energy that is there in all living things, right? Not just humans. As long as you are alive, right? Even if you're bacteria, you have life force. Okay, chi is the energy that flows in meridians and in the dantian. Right, this is the system and the energy that was discovered by the Chinese. So if you've heard of acupuncture, you've seen acupuncture, right? They put the needles and everything. Those are to treat using chi based on the meridians where the chi flows. Everything is based on this chi system. Now, prana is the term and the subtle energy referring to the energies that flows in the chakra system. Right? Those of you who practice yoga, or if you are maybe if you're attending this talk, most of you would have heard of the term chakras. So that it comes from the Indian heritage, right? So I'm honoring the same heritage by using the term prana. Prana is the energies that flow in the chakras. All right. So now, in order for you to have ESP, you need to perceive the subtle energies and the spiritual realms. So you don't just use your body to do it. You need to have your subtle energy system to help you perceive these invisible energies. All right. So if your life force, your chi, and your prana is weak, if your chakras are weak, right, it's very difficult to perceive. All right. In particular, okay, I will just make this a very quick one because it's just to give a very basic knowledge about how ESP works. In particular, you need to have strong prana. All right, you need to have strong prana, strong chakras in order to have better ESP. All right, in order to have better ESP. And in order to have strong prana and strong chakras, it is actually linked. It's actually linked to what kind of person you are and whether do you live your life according to good values. All right. So, does it now make sense? Think about it. That you might have heard that people who are spiritual or people who are religious, right, and they tend to be good people, right? They live their life following values, right? Because the religious like to talk about being loving, being forgiving, and so on and so forth, being compassionate. Now the monks, the nuns, the priests, or even the hermits, the yogis, they live according to high values, and they meditate, right? So they take care of their mind, or they do a lot of prayers, which also helps still the mind. Then they seem to have the gift of ESP. They are clairvoyant. They are able to foretell the future. And also because their chakras and prana is strong. Because when you live according to good values, your prana and your chakras will be strong, and it helps with the ESP. All right. So if I were to give a quick a summary of to explain how it works and to explain why I had that the drastic loss of energy, I'll just draw a quick schematic. Let's see, I'll find a space. So this is human, right? So you have your body. First of all, your genes need to be there, and then you need your energy needs to be there. So you need to have your chakras, your aura, right? Because prana helps with your aura. Your biggest aura is created by prana. All right. So we are surrounded by an aura. An aura is subtle energy, right? And we need our aura to interface with the subtle energies that are around us, right? In order to get information, right? You need to interface with the 95.1% that we are surrounded with, right? In order to pick up information. Now, picking up information is just one thing. So the first part is the sense, right? So our energy system helps us interface. Our energy system, right? Imagine the aura is interfacing with the invisible realms, with the subtle energy and spiritual realms. It's picking up information. All right? And the better the genes we have, the more we can do. The next thing is, how can it come into our consciousness? How can it come to our awareness? Now, if we are very busy, we're busy doing work, hurrying, rushing here, rushing there, or we're just thinking about a lot of things, it's not possible. We need to have a still and silent mind. Then only all this very, very subtle stuff, right, have a chance to be heard or to be perceived by the mind. The mind is picking up the information, but if we are very fixed upon the gross level stuff, if we are very fixed upon the 4.9%, we miss out the 95.1%. That is what is happening. All right. So this energy is linked to the body, and because I was doing energy reading, right? So I was purposely doing a lot of energy reading, and I was reading someone in another city. So my energy had to go from where I was all the way to another city in order to read the other person's energies. And I was reading the crystals which were with me in order to find a match, right? The person's energy, I need to get the person's energy, I need to get the crystal's energy, I need to put the two together to see whether they're compatible. And I keep doing it, keep going to the person, keep going to the person. So my energy keep going, and that's why I lost a lot of energy and I was like totally drained. And that taught me a real lesson, right? And I didn't know what happened until I met Cordelia. So I had so many questions. So Cordelia was into this like maybe 1 or 2 years before me, right? And she was already teaching students. And so I asked her, and then Cordelia asked me to show me how you do your crystal matching. And I showed her, I said, okay, here I put the crystals, and I take my dowling rods, and then so I will I will go and read the energy of the crystals, and I will go and read the energy of the person, and I show her how she did it. And then she looked at me, she would look at me, and after that, she told me, as you were doing it, I saw your chakras light up. Apparently, Cordelia is clairvoyant. Saw your chakras light up, and they went from you, go to the crystals, and went from you and go elsewhere, and then it came back. That was how I found out. All right, I'm sharing it with you guys. So there is a component. So I was using my mind to give the instruction, of course, right? And I was meditating and everything. So my body is involved, the energy is involved, and this is how it happens. It needs to be interfacing with the subtle energies or the spiritual realms. All right. So essentially, all of this I call it as energy reading, right? Because the energies are involved. It's just that most people are not aware. I put this topic as ESP because if I were to say energy reading, most people don't understand what I mean. ESP, many people have encountered it, right? So ESP is essentially a form of energy reading, sensors that interfaces with the subtle energies. So I will share with you what are the kind of things that we do with energy reading or ESP. So very typically, if you come to us for any services, we have to start off with energy reading because the kind of work that we do deals with subtle energies. So we will have to assess the energies, right, to find out what's going on. Because we don't just pick the 4.9%, we have to see what is the 95.1% because all of us have the aura and everything, and information is there. All right. And when I talk about things like crystal matching, right? Crystals have energies. Everything has energies, subtle energies. Every physical thing, you have invisible energies, and those energies can tell us a lot of stuff, right? If you train yourself to do so. So, of course, if you come to us, we will still talk to you. We'll still find out in a very earthly sense, very grounded manner. Ask you to tell your story, right? That will help us narrow down so that we don't have to do too much energy reading. We don't have to lose, it doesn't happen to me again. You don't lose too much energy. So we know where to search in terms of doing the energy reading. All right. So it happens that way. Now it works because everything has energy. So for example, what are the kind of things I normally do it for? Let's say personally, right? Some of you who are in the groups, I did share, for example, my son has allergy to fish, right? Developed as a result of him taking some immunosuppressants. So he developed allergies to fish, and because it's due to medication, and because he has to take the medication probably for life, the medication will cause him to be allergic to more and more kinds of food. And we realized that it caused him to be allergic to more and more kinds of fish, right? And in order to make sure he gets enough protein, we don't eat any other kinds of meat. So we only give him fish and eggs. So we want to make sure that he can eat fish as long as possible for his own development. But as the days goes by, he can eat less and less fish. So there's one particular type of fish, anchovies, right? Ikan bilis. Those of you in ikan bilis, anchovies. Now, when you buy anchovies, you don't know what kind of fish they are, right? Because they're so small. Right? They're all fish babies or something like that, right? And so he was taking his anchovies. We use anchovies to make soup, right? Very nice soup. And suddenly he became allergic and his lips got all swollen. And I knew then, can't give him that anchovies anymore. But wait a minute. When I go to the market, right, there is a particular supermarket I go to, right? The Malaysians, you should know, NSK. At NSK, there are like more than 10 types of anchovies for sale. And I was telling, I can go to NSK and use energy reading to find out which anchovies I can buy for my son. That I did. So I went to the supermarket. I did energy reading, right? And I compared it with the energy of my son, and I found out which it was, right? Which anchovies he could eat, right? And I bought it, and true enough, when it came back, I made soup with it. His lips didn't swell. That was a very practical reason. It happened right in my life. And I shared with you all, it's also in our Facebook, right? If you are interested, you can go to Facebook, you just search for CordyKet, you will find our page. Another story I shared on our page happened quite recently. So my car broke down, right? My car broke down and I needed a second-hand part for it, all right? And because it's an old car and the new parts are very, very expensive, I couldn't afford it. These are tough economic times, right? So I decided to go for a second-hand, right? So when I went to a second-hand dealer, right, he had many of the same parts, right? So now the thing with the second-hand parts is they were taken, right? They were taken from the scrap yard. The scraps of old cars, and they took the parts. So these are used parts, and they sell it, right? And they sell it at a very low price. So there's no telling, and there's no warranty, right? There's no telling. You could be taking out a part, this part, and the second-hand part, could break down in a week or a month. You could never know. So this is where I use my ESP, right? So I take a look at all the pictures, right? And then I read the energies of the pictures to find out which one will last longer, right? And I bought the one which, according to my energy reading, said, is supposed to be the best, will last me the longest. And when it came, so I got a mechanic to do the job, and he said, wow, actually my mechanic asked, wanted to go and select the second-hand parts himself, but the seller said no. You can only choose from the picture, and the mechanic is not allowed to come and open and see whether the internals are good. So you can only see from the picture, just the external. That's, you buy what you see, and according to the label, he will send. So I bought it, the mechanic opened it, put it in my car, and he said, well, you chose well. This is a very a unit that is not worn down, so it's in very good condition. So that was the second example that I used. Otherwise, what kind of energy readings that I do for myself? I take supplements, right? And I help people who come to me, right? There are people who due to wrong medication, they have side effects. So we can use energy reading to establish it. When it comes to supplements, I take supplements. So let's say I will go online to buy supplements, or I will go to the store, and then I will try to find out, wow, vitamin C, so many vitamin C's, but they're all not equal. Which one is the best for me? So I will check the energy, right? And then I will buy the one which is best. Usually not just for vitamin C's, right? Some supplements are really expensive, right? Especially if you're buying expensive stuff, right? Like Cordelia, you know, she would do like, you know, your facial products. You know, you never know if you have sensitive skin, facial products can give you some terrible rashes or whatever. So this is what we use energy reading for. And now it's pandemic times, COVID. What I intend to use energy reading for is for the vaccine, right? I will check whether the vaccine is suitable, whether it will give me some serious side effects that I will regret. And for us in Malaysia, our government plans to have 6 types of vaccines available, right? So when the time comes, I will intend to do energy reading for the vaccines and determining which one is the best for us in terms of safety and efficacy. All right. So this is roughly it for ESP and energy readings. If you all have any questions, please feel free to type. I will be answering your questions right now. All right, so Sean is saying if we have positive mind, our body frequency and vibration will be higher, and supposedly we will not need to worry about evil spirits, as those spirits' vibration frequency is lower. Is that true? This is not really related to today's topic, but yes, in general, that is true. Edwin is asking, on behalf of my friend, ESP or psychic ability, or psychic who are able to foresee the future, why don't they find out what total numbers coming out, buy and strike big price, lead a happy life then? Very good question. Now, you know, that is a very good question, and this happened to Cordelia and I. All right, so yes, psychic abilities can be used this way, but in general there are certain rules, because this world also has we talk about spirits. Now, for those of us who are doing the work that we do, which we call light work, so we work with the good spirits, right? Now, just to share with you all a story, what happened to Cordelia and I. So every now and then, our psychic abilities can pick up numbers, right? Numbers that will, strike, like 4D, lottery, Toto, all these number forecasting games, and we have ever like sat in a crystal cave, huge crystal cave, and because the crystal cave, the energy is so huge, it helps us just somehow pick and give us numbers, and we know that it will help us if we were to buy, gamble with this type of a number forecast games, we can strike it, right? And so we did try, Cordelia and I, right? So every time we get these numbers, I mean, after all, who doesn't want easy money, right? And it was very strange. Not one time did we win. Not one time we win. And so we did an energy reading to find out why didn't we win, right? And the answer had to come from the spiritual realms. It's because we have to use our abilities to help people, right? Use our abilities to help people get paid for it in order to earn a living. If we were to just use our abilities, right? Our abilities to get rich quick, get lazy, get greedy, then we will be away from light, away from values, right? Away from light, away from values, and then our energy will drop and the abilities will disappear. And it is also not what we are here for. So we were blocked. So even if we get the ability, we get the numbers, right? What will come out? They will, from the spiritual realms, they will make sure that number will not come out. So we have wasted quite a lot of money. And now our mind and our hearts are very still. We won't gamble. We know we are here to do the work, right? Because we're here to do the work. We're not given abilities to just enrich ourselves. And why then will we get abilities? Because a lot of the abilities come from energy, and energy is related to spirituality, right? The prana, the chakras, especially like I said, the prana and the prana is the single most important component, because that is linked to the spiritual energies actually, right? Now, having said that, um, um, I'm checking the time, but I'll share with you guys a story. So we had a client, right? There's only one client that I know, that we know, who was allowed to use the abilities to get rich, right? And this lady is from Taiwan, right? So this lady is from Taiwan. She was one of those who had prophetic dreams, and it's very disturbing prophetic dreams. So she came to our retreat to meet us, and apparently, since young, she's in Taiwan. Before she know where Malaysia is, her ESP, her abilities told her she need to come to Malaysia to find answers. She was like, where the hell is Malaysia, right? But eventually she came because she heard from a friend about this, and she came. So she attended our retreat, and then she came to see me personally, right? Came to see me personally, and she was complaining about her ESP. She was complaining about ESP and everything. And because her prophetic dreams usually deal with very sad occasions, she usually see how people die. And in a lot of cases, even when she tells the people they don't heed the warnings, they still end up dying. So it disturbed her a lot, and she doesn't sleep well because of it. And as she was sat there telling me and she was complaining, the information just came to me. And I told her, yes, that is true. But at the same time, I told her, your abilities help you financially. Because that was I don't know how I can't say I don't know how I did it. I know somehow my energy picked up this sense, and she was so shocked. How do you know? And guess what? This same lady retired at the age of 25. 25, can you beat that? She is not educated. She doesn't even have a college education. I mean, if you have college education, you can't retire at 25 because you will just you will, after you graduate, you only have a few years, right? So she retired at the age of 25, and she confessed to me her abilities allowed her to make investments and profit from that. She was the only one that I know, okay, that is allowed to use it, because for her soul planning is different. Her soul planning, this is another topic, we can talk about it. Soul planning, her life is meant to become financially independent from a very early age, and she's supposed to go into spirituality, and she did have a lot of visions and so on and so forth, to go into spirituality and to use her money to donate and help people. That was a life. Otherwise, most people that I know, if you have the ability, and if you are a light worker, you belong to the good guy side, you are not allowed to use it. You're not allowed to use it. And even those people who are on the dark side, from what I know, they don't actually do it. Maybe there's a different system with the dark side. There's a different price to pay. So I hope that answers your question, Edwin. We cannot just use it like that, and even if we do, it's not going to happen. All right. So next question. So I'm saying, if we connect to the spirit, it will drain our energy or they will absorb our energy. Is that true? Yes and no. So if you want to connect to the spiritual realms, you need to train, you need to know what you're doing. And so, like us, we train people in energy reading because you need to know what kind of spirits you're connecting to. So those of you who are very interested, you can go to YouTube, our YouTube channel, and you can look up our previous talk. I talked about divine beings and ghosts and hell and heaven, all that. You're interested about spiritual realms. So we use energy reading to determine whether the spirit that comes that we're communicating with is from the light or from the dark side. Those that are from dark side will take your energy. Those that are divine beings, they will not take your energy. So, in fact, we train all the people who wants to learn energy reading before they do all these type of things. So you have to be properly trained in energy reading before you go into the spiritual realms to try to communicate with spirits. Because if it's the wrong kind of spirits, you're going to get into trouble. All right. So next question. Edwin is asking, is deja vu only sensed by small percentage of population? Actually, no. In fact, I believe most people have experienced a sense of deja vu, right? I mean, everyone here, if you all want, you can give me an answer. I think you can put there's a smiley face there. If you have ever experienced deja vu, you can either raise your hand. Can you see a smiley there? You can put raise hand or you put a thumbs up, right? Anyone who have experienced deja vu before, right? And I hope everyone can see the reactions too. So in general, I believe most people experience deja vu. It's quite common. Deja vu is one of the most common ones. All right. Next question. Where does the intuition come from? Is it from your higher self? Very good question. Now, just to clarify, right? No, it's not necessarily from higher self. So everything will depend on these few factors, right? And then, like I said, from these few factors, mind, body, energy, then you interface with the subtle energy of spiritual realm. So intuition is more of the mind and has to do with the crown chakra, right? So your crown chakra need to be developed at a certain level in terms of energy. So you need to have some genes, and your mind need to be still enough. Then whether it comes from higher self, we call it the primal soul. It depends on what spirit are you interfacing with, right? So again, if you don't know energy reading, if you're not trained, you anyhow connect to the spiritual realm, you can be in deep trouble. You can get yourself in deep trouble. We don't advocate that. We advise that you train yourself properly. Otherwise, very often people get into trouble, and then you have to come and see us. Now, next question. Is dream considered extension of ESP? Yes and no. In the dreams, because when your mind is still, some ESP can manifest in your dreams. Otherwise, it's like what the psychologists and psychiatrists, the people who study the brain and mind says, the brain need to unwind itself, your subconscious will reveal itself, and your mind is still, your subconscious will reveal, things will come up and your brain need to unwind, rewind, and get some rest. So part of it goes into the dreams, not necessarily ESP. Is asking, how do we differentiate between the mind voice and intuition? Very good. If you want to be able to differentiate, you need some training, and the most basic and important training is to still or silence your mind, right? So that is why we encourage people, right, to do more meditation, right, to still the mind and to enhance your energy. You can do things like Qigong, energy practices like Qigong. And the best of all is, that's why we teach Unity Qigong. Unity Qigong will enhance all these three types of subtle energies. And like meditation, will help a lot with the prana, right? Because that is the subtle energies that you need most for ESP, right? And like meditation, it's a form of meditation. It helps you still your mind. It helps with energy, right? And Unity Qigong helps with everything. So anyone who's on our Infinity Healing Program, who's learning all this, the basic practice is UQ, Unity Qigong, and like meditation. That is our foundation practice, because it's I would say it's like, it's good for everything that is involved with all this energy and spiritual realm and well-being, general well-being, including for physical health. Right? You need Qigong and like meditation is also very good for physical health. Even if you're not interested in all this focus, all this, all this kind of stuff. Next question. ESP can be vision, see, hear, sense. Yes. So like I said, ESP is extrasensory perception. There are 5 normal senses and there are 5 ESP senses, right? So you can have normal seeing, and then you have psychic seeing, which is called clairvoyance. You have normal hearing, and you have ESP hearing, which is called psychic hearing or clairaudience, right? So you have a clairolfactory, which is for psychic smelling, clairgustance, which is psychic tasting, and you have psychic sensing, which is called clairsentience. All right, so 5 senses, and they're actually more than that. All right. So for every physical sense, you have one ESP sense. Is ringing sound in the ear considered above 20 kilohertz? Yes and no. Sometimes it's just a medical condition called tinnitus. It can be some vibration there. All right. Then Edwin is asking, is people with yin-yang eyes considered ESP people? Yes. So there's clairvoyance. Sean is asking, is third eye vision considered ESP? Yes. Clairvoyance. Stefan is asking, how can you see the difference between mind and imagination is playing with you, or you have some kind of vision or message? It all boils down to, can you still the mind? So if you are not able to still the mind, it's very difficult to tell whether you are perceiving using ESP or whether it's your mind playing tricks on you. So you need a degree of training, right? That's why the mind is very important. So I do agree with the term psychic abilities, even though I prefer the term ESP, because the mind is very important. If you're not able to still the mind, it's very difficult to tell reality from imagination, right? And it is reality. The subtle energy spiritual is reality because it is 95% of the universe, of the known or observable universe. Not according to me, according to scientists. The scientists know how much we don't know, which is 95% of the known universe unknown. All right. So can a psychic person see as far as 10,000 kilometers away? Yes, more than that. You know, there's a very famous psychic. I can't remember his name, but he wrote the book called Seventh Sense. Right? There's this guy who wrote the book Seventh Sense. He was a psychic, a clairvoyant, who was employed by the U.S. government. He was employed by the U.S. government to use ESP to spy on the Russians and to spy on other governments. Right, there is a program, okay, and in fact now I think it's all up on the internet. You can go and Google Seventh Sense, and this program has been it's no longer what they call it. It's no longer rate acted. It's been made available to the public domain. So he wrote a book about it. Now this man was the first man who saw Saturn with, the planet Saturn with the rings around it. He saw it with his mind's eye. How far is Saturn away? You're talking about 10,000 kilometers. This guy saw all the way to Saturn. He could see a planet with rings, and he drew it out, right? And by the time we developed telescopes, or that were able to see all the way to Saturn, and then wow, this guy was correct. Who would ever imagine that there were planets with circular rings around them? Because certainly, from the inner planets don't have. You have Mercury, Venus, then you have Earth, Mars, then Jupiter. All of these don't have rings. You only started having rings from Saturn, right? Saturn and Uranus. These are the two planets that have rings. And Saturn has horizontal rings. Uranus has kind of like vertical, right? So yes, you can see very far away. So Xiaofang is saying, my family members all seems normal. Now remember that my mom told me one of my dad's elder brother was meditating and can levitate. Woohoo. Abby is saying, please let us know which vaccine you're going to take. We will follow for safety. Now, again, if it comes to energy reading, right, it is specific for the individual. All right. So what may be, because like right now, when it comes to vaccines, right, and even for every energy reading, we read according to the person on one hand, and then the object on the other hand, right? And then we try to match them and see based on the energies, how does the energies interact of the object and of the person. If there's a lot of clash, then we know there's something wrong, right? Then we know there's something wrong. So we need to see whether it's compatible. If it's compatible, then we know, okay, it's all right. Right? We don't need the physical item to test. So it's kind of like a non-invasive testing kind of thing. So which vaccine, the vaccine that's good for me may not be good for you, right? So it's very hard to say. So we always try to do it individually, right? Maybe when the time comes, if you guys are interested, you all can contact me, all right? So we do it on an individual case basis. For example, I have a client, right? She's into taking supplements, so she heard magnesium is very good. Right? She took magnesium, and magnesium gave her a lot of problems, right? And she came to me and she asked me, you know, Kat, can you find out what's wrong with me and everything? And then I think I asked her what has she been taking, and then I checked the energies and told it's magnesium, right? And she stopped taking magnesium, and it seems that she's fine from then on. But this is just one of the stories. So we get stuff like that. So people have some strange problems, they don't know what's the cause, and then we help do, you know, using energy reading to try and identify for them. So let's see. Next question. So Sharifa is saying we need to read our energy first, then read energy of the food, etc. Is that the way it works? We need always to compare between two energies. Yes, if you're doing compatibility readings, yes. If you're doing compatibility readings, we need to read two objects. Otherwise, to read, for example, if I'm just doing energy healing on one person, then I don't need to compare. I just read the person's energies to find out what's the state of the chakras, you know, and so on and so forth about the person's energy. So I only need to read the person. But the same principle applies because I will still be using my body and my subtle energies to perceive the energies or the stuff in the person's body, right? So this thing applies. So this thing, mind, body, energy. And that is why anybody who is interested in energy reading, you cannot run from meditating. You cannot run from trying to develop a still mind, right? So some people might want to take the easy way out because meditation is so difficult, right? It's difficult if you make it out to be. Everything is difficult at start, right? Can you remember when you were young and you were trying to learn how to write ABCs? Yeah, it was bloody difficult, right? It was very so difficult. But now it's easy, right? But I get nowadays people don't write anymore. People just type. Okay, next question. Besides mind, body, energy requirements for ESP, is our past life experience also give the ESP ability? Good question. Past life and everything is linked to energy, right? Because your soul, everything is energy. It's part of the 95% that's invisible, so it comes under energy. All right. Will Taiwan lady becomes ill if she forewarn others going to die? No. So there is a fallacy about those people doing our work, you know, who reveal the future. Some say you have to take on the karma and everything, and bad luck falls. No such thing. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Now, usually what happens is this. So when some of the people who do this work and they don't know everything, or don't say everything, they don't know enough. Now, what's happening is this. Um, you usually the other person that you're trying to help will have some evil spirits or negative spirits with them, right? And it is the negative spirits who deem that you are interfering, and the negative spirits will create problems for you, right? Or you're reading and you don't know enough. So what happens is you're doing energy reading and your energy go to the person who is a victim of black magic, and you absorb black magic onto your body. And because you don't know enough, you don't know how to protect yourself from black magic, you don't know how to identify what is black magic, you get into trouble, right? So we do try to tell people, if you are really interested in all this stuff, please treat it very seriously, get trained properly, right? And you need to take care of your mind, body, and energy, right? You cannot be lazy about it. If not, you can easily get into trouble. All right. Jenny is asking, buying crystal based on date of birth by some feng shui shop. No. Everything is about energy. Because crystals, you want to get crystals, which is you want a crystal for energy, right? I want crystals for energy. Now, most people buy it because it looks pretty and everything. That's fine, right? You just want to buy it because it's pretty. But in this context here, we're talking about energy. You want to select a crystal which is good for you, right? You have to check the energy. And I remember one of the most remarkable cases I ever did was there was a normal woman, right? She was told by some psychics that she need to get a crystal from me. So she came to look for me to get a crystal, and I found a crystal that was 100% compatible for 100%. The reading was so strong. I told her, wow, you must get this. And it was not a cheap crystal, you know. I think it cost like 900 ringgit, like more than 10 years ago. So maybe the same stone will sell like probably in today's price, be like double, right? 2,000 or something like 2,000 ringgit, Malaysian ringgit. So it was cost about 900 ringgit, and she bought it with no question asked. And I never heard from her for weeks, right? Weeks later, she turned up, and guess what? She became very psychic. She came back with stories whereby she could talk to crystals, she could talk to spirits and everything. And thanks to that crystal, because with that crystal, she went to meditate, and in the meditation, she went so deep, and then it awakened all her ESP abilities. Wow, that was one of the most amazing things. And yes, so it all boils down to energy, right? So, and I have always, for me, I've always selected crystals based on energy. Now, the clients will say they want it to be beautiful, and what they tell me, okay, the requirements, I try to narrow it down and select some for them. So it depends. So usually there is a very remarkable results for some cases, and otherwise it does help them with to with their emotions or with their meditation or with their energy, especially the people who are very sensitive. They can feel it and they know that what I selected for them is good. So for crystals, it's about energy. Next question: how do we verify is our ESP or imagination? Meditate, right? You need to meditate until you know. You need to be still enough. There is no easy answer to this. None. And this very same question was mentioned in Cordelia's book, right? You meditate to the point that you know. And this knowing is an inner knowing. You just know it. There's no explanation. You know it because it is so, you just know it. That kind of feeling, right? This is imagination. This is real intuition. And it's only possible when your mind is still enough. So if your mind is not still enough, forget about it. Otherwise, if you really want to know the easy way out, but the easy way out needs training. So you need to join our Infinity Healing Program, in Energy Reading Program, if you want to know the easier way out. Otherwise, for normal people, you need to meditate until you're so still, you can tell everything. Otherwise, it's very difficult. For us, we do teach you some kind of shortcut, right? But even then, the training is not easy. You still need to do meditation. You still need to do Qigong because it is three components: mind, body, energy. Right? If your energy is not there, your mind is not there, or your body, you don't take care of your body, no use. You need all these three factors, basic minimum factors. All right. Next question: how does one know if whether the person is spiritual or not? I think that's your question. Your question is how does one know if he or she is spiritually? Well, normally I tell people this: a spiritual person is a good person, right? I don't measure any other way. It's not about whether the person speak with a lot of spiritual jargon or not, right? It is the conduct of the person, and you can tell. Sometimes you can tell by the way the person talk, by the way the person carry himself or herself, by the way the person doesn't talk, right? Haven't you noticed the people who talk all the time? They say empty vessels, right? Empty vessels make the most noise. So it can be revealed that way. But if you ask us, for us, we use energy reading to right? We can sense the energies of a person, and we know. I know, for example, some people say they meditate, but when I sense the energies, the mind is nowhere near a meditator's mind. The energies are nowhere near a regular meditation. Uh, some people say they're meditation teachers, but if they are not there, means they are not there, or they are there but lower there. Not there but there, kind of thing. All right. Next question. Evan is asking people go to Datokong to get number from individual on trance. Can we call the individual has ESP? Yes. The individual has ESP, but if you remember my talk on divine beings last month, any spirit that gives you numbers belongs to the dark side. End of story. Why? Any spirit that gives you numbers is promoting laziness, is promoting greed. Those are values of the dark. And if you go and do it, your light will turn dark. And it means that the dark spirits will follow you because your light has darkness, it has greed, it has laziness, and more evil spirits will come to you. I don't recommend it. Pray by roadside, pray to altars, pray for number. You are cultivating greed and laziness. Is that really what you want? If that's what you want, that's your choice. It's fine. But there are consequences, right? Because you're praying to dark spirits for this. And based on your intention, based on your values, which are of darkness, the law of attraction will help you attract these dark spirits and they will stay with you. I don't recommend it. Xiaofang is asking, is deja vu means soul planning? It could be soul planning or it's just clairvoyance, right? It's your ESP, you have seen it in moments or in your dreams. So that's where the deja vu comes. All right. It can be soul planning. It may not necessarily be. It's just whatever it is ESP. Jenny is asking, can a psychic person read another person's past life? Yes. Cordelia does that on occasion. Only on special occasions. We do not do past life readings for fun. Even if you throw money at us, we don't. All right. We do for what we call karmic resolution. That means I think I did mention in maybe in my feng shui talk, we help people with certain stuff that comes from their past lives. We realize they are encountering troubles in this life, but it's have something to do with the past life. So we have to read the past life to find out what's wrong, and then we have to do karmic resolution. Help them resolve the past life karma, so that they don't have certain things affecting them this life again or in future lives, right? So yeah, but we don't do it for fun, right? You do, oh, I want to have my past life read. No such thing, all right? We are too busy for that, and it does not help anyone. It just waste of energy. Well, Sharifah is asking how to learn practically the energy reading course at this time. It's pandemic at the moment, so I've not been conducting. There are some people who are interested to learn. In fact, there's a group who's waiting to learn energy reading. They're overseas, so it will be done online if you have at least one other person ready to do. Those of you who are on the immunity healing program knows that there are many levels. There's a lot to learn about all these subtle energy stuff and spiritual realm and energy healing, energy reading. There's a lot to learn. Okay, we are not like Reiki. Reiki is like 3 levels and we are done. We have more than 10 levels. All right, more than 10. I can't even tell you the exact figure. If I tell you the exact figure, people will run because there's so much to learn. All right, and each module is 2 days or 12 hours each. 2 days of 6 hours, or you can split it into 4 days of 3 hours. That's the maximum I allow people to split it. So it depends on the batch of people, right? During this pandemic times, we can do online over WebEx. I understand most of the students say they prefer the in-person courses, and I totally understand. Maybe in the future, I will set up something that is more easily available done through maybe recordings, and I can price the courses cheaper if it's recordings, right? But right now, we do it live online. So Evan is asking, can people with strong ESP be used to solve mysteries such as what happened to MH370? Yes, but who will believe? Yes, but who will believe? Right? You expect the government to believe a psychic. I remember there was a Mr. Coconut, right? The Bomo King with the coconut and everything. You know, he made a fool of himself and everyone in this line. So nobody is going to stick their necks out for that. All right. So I believe we've come to the end of the questions. If there are no more questions, then I thank you all for joining me. Right. I hope I managed to help shed the light on ESPs and energy readings. And if you guys are happy and you think you've gained some value from this tonight's talk, to make a donation to support us. If you don't, you can't afford it, it's also fine. All right. Thank you, everyone. Tomorrow we have light meditation at the same time, 9 p.m. at Malaysia, 9 p.m. Malaysia or China time. And next week we have next week is the week. All right. Next week on Wednesday we have a wellness sound session, and on Thursday night around 10:15 p.m. we have the Light on Earth meditation. Right? Don't miss Light on Earth meditation, because Light on Earth meditation is the most powerful meditation we do for the public. It is when we connect with the true source of light, and through the true source of light, you cleanse and heal yourself, your home, your loved ones, your family, your friends, and the world. Bring light on earth with Light on Earth meditation. And the more people do it, the more powerful, the more effective it is. So don't miss it on Thursday night. And Wednesday too, there is a wellness sound session. Now it's because next week the energies are going to be very, very strong, right? So those of you who are psychics and sensitives, be prepared. And the strongest is going to be on Thursday. Because 7 planets are aligned in one constellation. Those of you who heard my feng shui and astrology talk, you will be aware of it. Those of you who haven't, if you want to get a copy or access to the feng shui astrology talk, contact me, make a donation, and I will send you the link. All right. Thank you, everyone, and I hope to see you all tomorrow or next week. Goodbye, good night, or good day to those of you who are in Europe. Bye-bye.